All right, so get this. You know how people are always like, travel broadens the mind, right? Well, imagine traveling over 75,000 miles back in the 14th century. No planes, no trains, just you and the open road. That's exactly what Ibn Battuta did. And that's what we're diving into today.
It's pretty mind-boggling when you think about it. I mean, in a time when most folks wouldn't really stray too far from their own village, Ibn Battuta crisscrossed continents. I mean, his journey spanned over 3 decades. That's a distance that was just unheard of in his era. He traveled across huge stretches of Africa, the Middle East, Asia. He was like the ultimate globetrotter centuries before the term even existed.
Okay, so we have this 14th century Moroccan scholar with like a serious case of wanderlust. But let's back up for a sec. What exactly prompted him to embark on this epic adventure?
Well, his initial goal was to complete the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. It was a journey of religious devotion, but as we know, it turned into something way, way grander. I mean, Ibn Battuta is only 21 when he set out, already showing a thirst for knowledge and a daring spirit that would define his life.
So Mecca was just the first stamp on his passport to adventure. But a 14th century road trip, that couldn't have been easy. I mean, what kind of obstacles are we talking about here?
Oh, you name it, he probably faced it. Scorching deserts, treacherous mountain passes, perilous sea voyages where, storms could just wreck your ship in an instant. And let's not forget the bandits lurking along those ancient trade routes, always ready to relieve a traveler of their possessions and sometimes their life.
Wow, that's pretty intense. So how did he navigate all that? I mean, was he some kind of medieval ninja warrior?
Well, not quite a ninja warrior, but definitely resourceful and incredibly resilient. I mean, he used his wit, his charm, and his scholarly knowledge to get out of all kinds of sticky situations. I mean, he even managed to escape imprisonment in India by the Sultan of Delhi, no less, who wasn't exactly known for his lenient nature.
Okay, escaping captivity in India. That's a story we need to hear more about. But first, let's talk about his travelogue, the Rehla. It's more than just a diary, right?
Absolutely. It's like a treasure trove of historical and cultural insights into the medieval world. You get these first-hand accounts of the diversity of customs and languages and political landscapes of his time. He encountered everyone from powerful rulers to everyday people, and he just paints this really vivid picture of the societies that he visited.
So it's not just some dry travel itinerary. We're talking about stories that really bring the past to life, right? I mean, what kind of juicy details can we find in the Rehla?
Oh, there's plenty. He describes the dazzling wealth of Mansa Musa's empire in Mali, his experiences as a judge in the Maldives, imagine that, a Moroccan scholar shaping the legal system of a distant island nation, and his awe at the advancements of Chinese civilization, which was centuries ahead of Europe at the time.
And all this without Google Maps or travel blogs? So he's this cultural bridge, this window into a lost world. But we also have to address the elephant in the room, right? The debate about the accuracy of his accounts.
Oh, yes, the age-old question. Did he really see it all? Or did he, maybe embellish a bit? It's a valid question. I mean, there are some scholars who definitely raise eyebrows at certain details. They point out potential inconsistencies or question whether he could have physically covered the distances he claims in the time frame given.
So are we saying he might have stretched the truth a little? Maybe taken some artistic license with his storytelling?
It's possible. I mean, we have to remember that travelogues back then were often intended to entertain as much as to inform. And Ibn Battuta was writing for an audience that just craved tales of the exotic and the fantastical. It was just a different era of storytelling.
Okay, so maybe not every detail is 100% historically accurate, but that doesn't negate the value of his work, right? I mean, we're still talking about an incredible journey and a unique perspective on a bygone era.
Exactly. Even with the controversies, the Rehla is an invaluable resource for understanding the medieval world. And it raises these important questions about, how we interpret historical sources, especially those from cultures and times that are just vastly different from our own.
So it's a reminder to be critical readers of history, but also to appreciate the human element, the subjective lens through which these stories are told. But before we get too deep into historiography, let's go back to those juicy details. You mentioned his imprisonment in India. I think we need to unpack that story.
All right, buckle up, because this is where things get pretty intense. Ibn Battuta found himself on the wrong side of the Sultan of Delhi, a ruler who was notorious for his volatile temper. And let's just say expressing your opinions freely wasn't exactly, encouraged in his court.
Ooh, sounds like a recipe for disaster. So how did he land in hot water with the Sultan? Was it a cultural misunderstanding, a difference in religious views, or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Well, there are a lot of different interpretations. Some believe he might have been too outspoken, perhaps critical of the Sultan's policies, which, wouldn't have gone over well. Others suggest it might have been a simple case of courtly intrigue, getting caught in the crossfire of palace power struggles.
Yikes. Either way, not a situation you want to find yourself in, especially with a ruler known for his, shall we say, creative methods of punishment. What happened next?
Imagine this. You're a scholar accustomed to, the finer points of Islamic law and the comfort of civilized society. Now you're stripped of your possessions, thrown into a dank prison cell, fearing for your life. That was Ibn Battuta's reality for a while.
Talk about a harsh reality check. So how did he manage to escape? Was it a daring prison break, a stroke of luck, or did he use his silver tongue to talk his way out?
Well, this is where his shark mind and adaptability really came into play. He actually managed to gain the Sultan's favor, some say, through his knowledge of Islamic law and his ability to recite the Quran flawlessly from memory. Others speculate he might have used his diplomatic skills, perhaps offering valuable knowledge about, the outside world. Whatever the method, he managed to secure his release, and even found himself back in the Sultan's good graces, eventually serving as a judge in his court.
That's incredible. From prisoner to judge in the court of a powerful ruler. Talk about a plot twist. But it also raises an important question. Did this experience change him? Did it, affect his views on power, on justice, on, the risks and rewards of speaking truth to authority?
That's a question we can only, speculate on. But it's fascinating to consider how such a dramatic experience might have shaped his worldview. Did it make him more cautious, more cynical, or did it reinforce his belief in the power of knowledge and diplomacy to overcome even the most challenging situations?
These are the kinds of questions that make history so fascinating, right? We can dig into the facts, the dates, the places, but ultimately we're left with these, tantalizing glimpses into the human experience, the inner lives of people who lived centuries ago. And speaking of human experience, let's move on to another fascinating aspect of Ibn Battuta's journey. His role is this, cultural bridge between East and West.
Absolutely. And remember, this was centuries before the internet, before instant communication, before the world felt as, interconnected as it does today. Ibn Battuta was a one-man cultural exchange program, absorbing and disseminating knowledge across these vast distances.
Okay, so he's more than just a driver. He's a conduit for ideas, customs, even technology. But let's get specific here. What kind of cultural exchanges are we talking about? Give us some examples.
Well, take his travels through China, for example. He was awestruck by their technological advancements, their sophisticated bureaucracy, their, bustling cities with towering pagodas and intricate canal systems. He marveled at their use of paper money, something that was just unheard of in the West at the time, and their mastery of gunpowder and printing techniques. He even described their elaborate tea ceremonies and their, Confucian values, offering this glimpse into a culture that was largely unknown to the West.
Wow, so he's bringing back knowledge that could potentially change the course of history. And it wasn't just about technology, right? He was also observing social customs, religious practices, even agricultural techniques.
Exactly. He describes the nomadic lifestyle of the Mongols, the intricate silk weaving techniques of the Chinese, the spice trade in Southeast Asia. He even witnessed the grandeur of the Mughal court in India and the spiritual practices of Sufi mystics. I mean, he's like this walking, talking encyclopedia of the medieval world.
It's incredible to think how these observations might have influenced people back home. It's like planting these seeds of knowledge that could blossom into new ideas, innovations, even shifts in worldviews. But let's go back to those criticisms about his accounts. You mentioned inconsistencies and potential embellishments. Let's dive into some specific examples.
All right, let's take his description of the Maldives, for instance. He claims to have served as a judge there, even marrying into a local family. And some scholars, raised doubts, arguing it's unlikely a foreign traveler would be given such a prominent position in a, relatively isolated island nation. They also point out the lack of independent corroboration from, Maldivian sources.
So are we saying he might have fabricated his experience in the Maldives? Or is there another way to interpret this discrepancy?
Well, it's not necessarily black and white. Some argue that even if he didn't formally hold the position of a judge, he might have been consulted on legal matters due to his knowledge of Islamic law, which was, influential in the Maldives at the time. It's also possible that records of his time there have simply been lost over the centuries.
So it's a reminder that history is often fragmented, pieced together from these incomplete sources and subjective interpretations. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces, and we're left to fill in the gaps as best we can.
Exactly. And that's what makes historical inquiry so, intriguing. It's not about blindly accepting everything we read, but rather engaging in this like critical dialogue with the past, questioning assumptions and considering multiple perspectives.
And in the case of Ibn Battuta, even with these controversies, his journey remains this incredible feat of exploration and cultural exchange. It challenges us to think about how knowledge was shared in a pre-modern world, how individuals could shape perceptions of far-off lands, and how stories, even with their embellishments, can still hold immense value.
And speaking of stories, let's delve into another fascinating aspect of Ibn Battuta's travels. His encounters with, powerful rulers and the complexities of navigating the world of medieval politics. Yeah, you're right. Those encounters with rumors really offered this fascinating glimpse into the delicate dance of diplomacy and power in the medieval world. Remember, this was an age of empires, sultans, khans, and emperors, each with their own ambitions and agendas. And Ibn Battuta wasn't just passing through, he was actually navigating these complex political landscapes, often relying on his wit and knowledge to stay in favor, or at least out of trouble.
Okay, so paint us a picture here. What was it like for Ibn Battuta, a scholar from Morocco, to find himself in the court of, say, a Mongol Khan or an Indian sultan?
Well, imagine this. You're stepping into this world of just opulence and intrigue, lavish palaces adorned with gold and silk, just bustling with courtiers and advisors, all like vying for influence. And you have to master the local customs, the etiquette, even the language, just to avoid, causing offense. It's a real high-stakes game where one wrong word or gesture could have, like, serious consequences.
Yikes. It sounds a bit like a medieval version of Game of Thrones. But Ibn Battuta wasn't just a passive observer, right? He was actively engaging with these rulers, sometimes even serving as an advisor or a diplomat.
Exactly. His knowledge of Islamic law, his linguistic skills, he reportedly spoke several languages, and his understanding of different cultures made him a really valuable asset. He helped to negotiate treaties, mediate disputes, even served as an emissary for various rulers.
That's incredible. So he's not just a traveler or scholar. He's like a player on the world stage, shaping events through his knowledge and connections. But navigating these power dynamics must have been like really tricky. Did he ever face any ethical dilemmas? Was he ever forced to like compromise his own beliefs to appease a powerful ruler?
That's a question that, that historians continue to debate. We have to remember that he was operating within a different moral framework than our own. So what might seem like a compromise to us might have been considered standard diplomatic practice in his time. But there are instances in his writings where he expresses disapproval of certain practices or policies. So it suggests that he wasn't afraid to hold on to his principles, even when it might have been, easier to just go along with the flow.
So he's walking this tightrope, balancing his personal beliefs with the demands of navigating these complex political landscapes. It makes you wonder how those experiences shaped his own views on leadership, on power, on justice.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that history isn't just about, dates and facts. It's about, human choices, the ethical dilemmas that people face, the compromises they make, and the impact of those choices on the course of events.
Okay, so we've talked about Ibn Battuta's his challenges and triumphs, his role as a cultural bridge, the controversies surrounding his accounts. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about his legacy. How has this 14th century traveler continued to capture our imaginations, centuries later?
Well, Ibn Battuta's story continues to resonate because it speaks to something, I think, universal within us. The thirst for adventure, the curiosity about the unknown, the desire to connect with people from different cultures. His journey reminds us that the world is this vast and diverse place, full of wonders that are just waiting to be discovered.
And it's not just about the exotic locations or the historical significance, right? It's also about the human element of his journey, the resilience he showed in the face of adversity, the adaptability he displayed as he moved from one culture to another, the sheer determination to keep exploring, even when faced with, danger or hardship.
Exactly. He embodies this spirit of resilience and adaptability that's just so relevant today, especially in a world that's constantly changing and challenging us to step outside of our comfort zones. He reminds us that we have more in common than we might think, that human connection can transcend cultural barriers, and that the world is a richer, more vibrant place because of its diversity.
So he's not just a historical figure. He's like an inspiration, a role model for anyone who wants to embrace adventure, to connect with different cultures, to broaden their horizons. But his legacy goes beyond just individual inspiration, right? I mean, his journey has had a tangible impact on the world, even centuries later.
Absolutely. His travelogue, the Rehla, has become a cornerstone of historical research, offering these invaluable insights into the medieval world. It's been translated into numerous languages, studied by scholars across disciplines, and it continues to shape our understanding of that era. I mean, his name graces universities, research centers, even travel awards, and he's inspired countless individuals to retrace his steps, to explore the world with open minds and hearts.
So it's like his journey is still unfolding, continuing to impact the world even centuries after he completed his travels.
Precisely. And his story speaks to the enduring power of travel to broaden our perspectives, to challenge our assumptions, and to connect us with our shared humanity. In a world that can sometimes feel, divided and uncertain, Ibn Battuta's journey reminds us of the beauty of diversity, the importance of cross-cultural understanding, and the enduring human spirit of exploration and connection.
Speaking of connection, I think it's time to bring our listeners into the conversation. You've heard about Ibn Battuta's extraordinary journey, his challenges, his triumphs, his impact on the world. Now we want to hear from you. What resonates most with you about his story?
Yeah, what sparked the curiosity? Is it the sheer scale of his travels, the daring spirit he embodies, the cultural insights he offers, or perhaps the reminder that even in the face of adversity, the human desire to explore and connect, endures?
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
But before we do, we want to leave you with a final thought. Ibn Battuta's journey kind of reminds us that the true treasures we uncover aren't always like gold or spices or anything like that. But, it's the experiences we gather, the lessons we learn, and the connections that we make along the way. It's about embracing the transformative power of travel, allowing yourself to be changed by the people and places we encounter.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thought. It's not just about ticking off, destinations on a budget list. It's about letting the journey shape you, challenge your perspectives, and ultimately enrich your understanding of the world and yourself.
Exactly. And it's about approaching each encounter, each experience with a sense of curiosity and openness. Ibn Battuta didn't have the luxury of online reviews or travel guides or anything like that. He had to rely on his own instincts, his ability to, read people, his willingness to embrace the unknown.
So he was forced to be present in the moment, to engage with his surroundings in a more authentic way, right? There's something really powerful in that, especially in our current world where it's so easy to get caught up in the digital noise and lose sight of the real human connections happening all around us.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, in a world that's saturated with travel influencers and, perfectly curated Instagram feeds, Ibn Battuta's journey reminds us that the most meaningful travel experiences often happen when we let go of expectations and embrace spontaneity and allow ourselves to be surprised by the unexpected.
So it's not just about where you go, but how you go, right? It's about being open to new perspectives, new ways of life, even new ways of thinking. It's about letting the journey transform you, Not just, geographically, but intellectually and emotionally as well.
Precisely. And that's what makes Ibn Battuta's legacy so, enduring. He wasn't just a traveler. He was a bridge between cultures, a conduit for knowledge and understanding. He reminds us that despite our differences in language or customs or beliefs, we share a common humanity that connects us all.
That's such a powerful message, especially in our current world where it's so easy to focus on what divides us. Ibn Battuta's story reminds us to look for what unites us, to find common ground, to celebrate the beauty of diversity.
Absolutely. And it challenges us to be more than just, tourists, to be travelers who engage with the world thoughtfully and respectfully, and with this genuine desire to learn and grow from our experiences.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Ibn Battuta's incredible journey, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will carry with them? What's the takeaway message that you think is most relevant in today's world?
I think Ibn Battuta's story reminds us that the world is a book, and those who don't travel only read one page. It encourages us to get out there, explore, connect, and embrace the richness and diversity of human experience.
Beautifully said. And even if we can't all traverse, continents like Ibn Battuta, we can still cultivate that spirit of adventure and curiosity in our own lives.
We can explore new neighborhoods, try new foods, strike up conversations with people from different backgrounds. Just step outside our comfort zones and embrace the unknown with open hearts and minds.
Because ultimately, the greatest journey is the one that leads us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around it.
And on that note, we leave you with this thought. What will your next adventure be? AICAR.